My name is Pastor Jojo Kuria, and together with my husband, Pastor David Kuria, we have the privilege of leading this church community, and we lead under the stewardship and leadership of our movement leaders and senior pastors, Pastor Morevi and Carol Onjao, who were here last week. It was such an honor to have them. And it's my honor and privilege to be bringing God's word to you this month. And before we get into it, I'd like us to just quickly say a word of prayer. Our Father and our God, I thank you so much for yet another opportunity to sit under your feet, to hear your voice, to hear a word that you have for every single person in this community. As we kickstart and as we listen to your word, I pray that you will open our ears, you'll open our eyes of understanding, that we may hear the things that you have for us. I thank you, God, for continually using me as a vessel, as a conduit for your people. I pray that I will continually diminish and you will increase, that they will hear your voice, they will hear it with boldness and clarity, and that they'll not just be hearers of your word, but doers of your word as well. So come into this space. We welcome you and we thank you for yet another Sunday in your presence. It's in Jesus' name we have prayed and worshipped. Amen. All right, before we get into it, I want to start with a game, and I want you to indulge me in this game. So this game is called Deal or No Deal. I'm going to give you two options. You have to choose which deal you would take. So option A will be put your left hand up. Option B will be put your right hand up. And here's the thing. No being spiritual and refusing both options. You have to choose. It's deal or no deal. So let's start. Deal or no deal. The first situation and scenario is this. A, left hand, and double your salary but work every Saturday. Raise your left hand if that is the situation. Or B, keep your current salary and have every weekend free. Raise your right hand. Deal or no deal? Okay, this is your right hand. Okay, cool. So I'm seeing, okay, it's a bit of this and that. I'm seeing some left. There are some people who are not raising their hands. Quincy, is your hand raised? I see your hand, okay. All right. Deal or no deal? The second scenario is this. A, be wildly successful, but nobody knows your name. Or B, be moderately successful, but everybody knows who you are. Come on, who are those false humility people? False humility, all right. So be wildly successful, whatever that means. Okay, deal or no deal? The third scenario. A is get the promotion you've been praying for, but no, it will significantly reduce your time with your family. Or B, turn it down and watch somebody else take it. Now, if you're sitting next to your wife, be very careful which hand you're raising. There is no option C, guys. I need some hands up. Okay, deal or no deal? This is the final scenario. Are we ready for it? And I want to see some hands up. Deal or no deal? Scenario A, lose 20% of your income, or keep the money, but lose one full day with your family every single week. There's no option C. It's only A or B. I can see some people in a pickle trying to figure out which hand to raise. You're raising all hands. No? All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's the interesting thing about those questions. Now, those questions were all different questions. They were all distinct questions, but each of those questions was actually asking you the same thing. And the question it was asking was, what are you willing to give up to get what you want? And every Monday morning, every Wednesday afternoon, or whichever day it is that you step into the marketplace, the world makes us similar offers. It's constantly asking you, deal or no deal, every day, every quarter. And whether you realize it or not, it's saying to you, give me this, and I'll give you that. So a number of things that it asks you every day is, give me more of your time, and I'll give you more money. It says to you, give me your availability, and I'll give you that promotion. It says to you, give me your convictions, and I will give you access. Give me your image, and I'll give you significance. It's always a deal. And the problem is that we sometimes accept the deal that the marketplace offers us without ever stopping to ask ourselves, what is it really costing you and me? For our visitors, welcome to Mavuno Church Downtown. As you've heard, we have 2 services, one at 9 a.m. and this one at 11 a.m. with concurrent services for our teens, young adults, and kids. It's really good to see you. Just to bring you up to speed, we began this sermon series last week, and it's titled Illicit Affair. Monday will never be the same again. When we began this sermon series last week, we started with one of the most bizarre pictures in Scripture. In Revelation 17, which was the text that we read last week, John, the Apostle John, describes this world system called Babylon. He doesn't describe this world system called Babylon as an army coming to attack us or as a dictator trying to control us. It's not a coup d'etat or a hostile takeover. John uses the description of a seductive woman. And the reason for this, what we said last week, is that because the world doesn't usually force its way into our hearts. What it does is it bids us to come. It woos us. It seduces us. It promises us. And one of the places we experience that seduction most powerfully is in the marketplace, through our work, our money, our ambitions, and our pursuit of success. Last week, I made it crystal clear that God is not against work. As a matter of fact, God invented work. Work is good. Business is good. Studying is good. Building, creating wealth, pursuing excellence, providing for your family. These are good things. They can all be expressions of God's calling in our lives. But what we said is that the danger is that good things have the ability to quietly become ultimate things. So work, money, ambition, opportunity, success, promotion can slowly begin occupying in a place in our hearts they were never designed to occupy. And so we learned something interesting last week, that the marketplace is not neutral. That every day when you get into the marketplace, it's asking things of you. It's shaping your decisions. It's asking for your worship. It's competing for your affection. And our challenge last week was, don't let the work of your hands become the worship of your heart. So even as we continue this week, maybe you listened to me last week and you said, okay, somewhat I resonate. Maybe I've let the work of my hands become the worship of my heart. I feel like I'm entangled in this space. This week, what we ask ourselves is, how do you disentangle yourself from something that has slowly taken the place in your heart that it was never meant to occupy? What happens when you realize that somewhere along the way, the work of your hands has already started becoming the worship of your heart? To help us answer this question, I want us to go back to Revelation, this time one chapter later. Last week we read the book of Revelation 17, and today we'll move to Revelation 18:4. It's a very simple text. It's very short, but it's very powerful. This is what it says. Then I heard another voice from heaven say, this is the Apostle John speaking, come out of her, my people. so that you will not share in her sins, so that you will not receive any of her plagues. Now, you might be thinking, what's going on with this verse? Let me give you some context. Last week, we read the book of Revelation 17. This is Revelation 18. Now, these two chapters are actually part of the same vision. So John gets a vision, and he's sharing it. In chapter 17, John introduced us to this woman we talked about last week, Babylon. And basically, Babylon is the picture of a world system that's organized away, devoid from God. A world system that is a self-aggrandizing system that's away from God, in opposition of God. And he paints this picture because he says, she looks powerful. She's connected to kings and nations. She's surrounded by wealth and influence. When you meet her, you become seduced by her. You begin to commit adultery with her, and you become intoxicated by what she offers. So by the time we now get to chapter 18, something has changed. God is showing John how Babylon's story ends. You see, for all of Babylon's power, wealth, and influence, she is going to fall. In fact, in Revelation 18:2, there's an announcement that's made, fallen is Babylon the Great. And then in verse 4, what we've just read, before that judgment comes, God speaks to his people who are still caught up in her system and gives them the instruction of, come out of her. So with that context, let me read it again. Then I heard another voice from heaven say, come out of her, my people, so that you will not share in her sins, so that you will not receive any of her plagues. Now, I want you to notice those words that are in a different color. Come out of her. Now, there's something almost poetic here because last week in the book of Revelation 17, we saw how seduction begins. We saw that it begins with an invitation. The invitation is like a buttery-tongued, come to me. It's a slow invitation. It's a seductive invitation. It's come closer. Come experience what I can offer you. And as we learned last week, nobody intends to be intoxicated by this, but that's the slow fade, the drift that happens. And so you simply respond to one invitation, then another, and then you find yourself completely entangled in this world of Babylon. But now, one chapter later, the chapter that we've just read, there's another invitation. Only this time, the voice is different, the direction is different. While that other voice, come, was from Babylon, God says to us, come out. Babylon's invitation draws you in, but God's invitation calls you back. And perhaps that's the grace of this passage. That God doesn't just tell us that, hey, Mavuno Downtown, there's a system called Babylon that you must be wary about. When you get into the marketplace, you have to know that this system exists. He doesn't just expose this affair, this Babylonian system, but he actually provides a way out. He doesn't simply show his people how entangled they've become and then leave them there. He calls them back to himself. But there's something else in this verse that I find even more interesting. Look at who God is speaking to. It says, come out of her, my people. He's not speaking to people who don't know who he is. He is speaking to his people, which means, ladies and gentlemen, it's possible to belong to God and still be caught up in a system that's shaping the way you live. It's possible, Mavuno Downtown, to come here on Sunday and raise holy hands worshiping God and allow Babylon to determine how you operate your business or in the marketplace on Monday. It's possible to love Jesus, to give and to tithe faithfully, to serve him in church, to belong to a discipleship or small group here at Mavuno Downtown, and still allow the values to Leah. And still allow the values of the world to determine how you pursue money, success, influence, and opportunity. Now again, I need to make this abundantly clear before somebody misunderstands me. When God in this verse is saying, come out of her, my people, he's not saying come out of the marketplace. This is not the Sunday where all of you resign on Monday morning and tell your bosses, Pastor Jojo says we come out of here. That's not what I'm saying. In fact, the opposite is true. God needs his people in the marketplace. He needs kingdom men and women in NGO spaces. He needs them in media spaces, in tech spaces, in medicine fields. He needs those people in government, in business, in education, in media, in the arts. So we're not being called to abandon the places that God has called us to in the first place. What he's saying is this: when you get into these places, my friend, be aware, be wary that this space is not neutral, that it seeks to devour you. It seeks to seduce you with the trappings of the things that it offers. And so by all means, get into that place, because we are indeed called to be salt and light. But as you get in, know whose you are. Know who you are. Know who you're representing in that space. So the challenge of Revelation 18 is much more difficult than simply just leaving your job. How do you come out of Babylon without walking out of your assignment? How do you remain in the marketplace without allowing the marketplace to determine who you become? To answer that, we need to understand exactly what we are coming out of. So remember, at the beginning, we played this game, Deal or No Deal. And we said every deal essentially works the same way. There's something on offer, and there's something required of you in exchange. So it's simply, give me this, and I will give you that. And in many ways, that's exactly how Babylon works. You see, Babylon will offer you a deal. And let me tell you something about the marketing department in Babylon. They are excellent because the things she offers you are not hidden away somewhere. As a matter of fact, they are written in font size 18, bold, underlined neon signs. More money, more significance, more impact, more success. The corner office, climbing up the ladder, all of those things, they're plainly written, loudly calling you and calling for your attention. And she tells you exactly what you need to do to be able to get the things that she's offering. So work harder and I'll give you more. Win and I'll take you higher. Build the right image and I'll make you significant. Give me your availability and I'll give you access. Play by my rules and I'll let you into the room. And you know, exactly what this can look like in real life is this. It's the branch manager who quietly signs off a loan they know the customer cannot afford because month-end numbers are due. And nobody asks how you hit the target, only whether you hit it. Bankers, mmefikiwa leo. It's the sales team pushing a product they know is not right for the client because the target board on the wall doesn't have a column for what was this actually good for them. I have a friend who's an actuary who worked in the insurance sector in one of the big insurance firms, and she tendered her resignation a while ago because her role required her to be part of the design of some of these products. There was a flawed design, according to her. She went to her boss and said, this thing does not help the consumer at all. As a matter of fact, in the fine print, it actually sets them back. The boss had what she had to say, had another meeting, and eventually she was let go. She was released from her position. Now let me tell you, recently I was with her and I saw the YouTube ad of that particular insurance product that many of you may be purchasing because somebody in this system decides, I don't care for you, I care for your money. The fine print is that you might lose a chunk of that money. But what does Babylon say? It's influence, it's success, it's money. It's not that woman who's eking a living, who's putting their monies in this insurance policy that you are hoodwinking. Insurance people, Mefikiwa, are you here? Let me tell you something. It is absolutely catastrophic for you to tell me to go to the fine print where you have written things in font number 2. When I come to lay my claim 10 years from now, you will give me a magnifying glass to see the thing that I signed. Is that not Babylon? Are you not hoodwinking people for influence, for success? Because you're pursuing the bottom line. It's the NGO. NGO people, are you here? It's taking pictures of emaciated children with flies around their mouth so that you can get a donor report. You're here. Are you taking pictures of emaciated children? Not anymore. I love it. Come out of her. Let me tell you, I work in that industry, and we must stop faking that we've gone to Mathare or Dandora or Kibera for donor reporting. That we have impacted, that we have had 50 capacity building sessions, and you ate the money. Come out of her. That is what this text is saying. Let me tell you, it's the contractor who under-declares a defect, because the next payment needs to come through. How many buildings in Nairobi must go down before you and I, Christians, in the architectural space, say Babylon must fall? Innocent lives, people are dying because you're looking the other way. Impact, significance, that is what it looks like. It's the colleague who takes credit for your idea in the meeting, because in that moment, being seen to win matters more than being honest about who did the work. Let me tell you, here's a subtle thing. Babylon rarely walks into your office and says, abandon your integrity. She simply says, hit the target, close the deal, protect the opportunity, don't lose the client, do what everybody else is doing. And slowly, without realizing it, it's a slow fade. It's a drift. You stop asking, is this right? And start asking, will this work? Mavuno Downtown, here is what makes this deal so seductive. Babylon is not necessarily lying, because you may actually make more money when you do these things. You may actually get promoted. You may actually get into rooms you never imagined you would enter. People will begin to know your name. You will have the designated parking and the embossed title on your door or the corner office. Your business may grow. Your influence may increase. You may finally be able to afford the house, the school, the holidays, or the lifestyle. So Babylon actually can deliver. And perhaps that's why many of us take the deal, because it works. But there is something that Babylon's marketing department doesn't put on that billboard, on that font 18, bold, capitalized, italicized, neon light billboard. Because every deal has terms and conditions. And these are often at the bottom, right at the bottom. And you'll have to squint to read them, because they're in font size 2. Because while Babylon puts what you can gain in font size 18, she puts what it will cost you in the fine print. And that's the part we seldom read. So underneath, double your salary, the fine print reads, you may lose your Saturdays. Underneath, promotion, the fine print reads, your family may get less of you. Underneath, access, the fine print reads, you may have to become silent about things you once had convictions about. Underneath, significance, it may say your identity may slowly become dependent on people knowing your name. Underneath, success, It may say you may eventually become someone your younger self would not recognize. There's always that font 18 thing that is exciting, that is alluring, that is seductive. But when you put on that magnifying glass and read the fine print, you will see what it will cost you to get to that space. And nobody puts that on LinkedIn. Nobody posts, delighted to announce my promotion to regional director. My marriage is also hanging on a thread. #blessed, #new beginnings. No one does that. We announce what we gained, but we rarely announce what it costs. Come on, regional director. And church, that is the question Babylon hopes you never ask. Because the benefits are loud, but the cost is always in the fine print. Sometimes the fine print is stress and strain. We were never created to carry the weight of being our own source of significance and glory. That is a burden the human soul was never designed to hold. And eventually, something begins to give. What this Babylonian system does is it makes us the be-all and the end-all. Like literally, the sun rises and sets out on my head. I feel that I'm this big person. That was never the intention. And oftentimes, because of that grandiosity, we have to do things to maintain. So it's either you're lying awake at 2 a.m., you're recalculating numbers that were perfectly fine at 5 p.m. because somehow rest has started to feel like falling behind. Maybe it's your body screaming, I need rest. This month it'll be a sore here, the next month it'll be a leg here, the next month it'll just be ailment here and the other, and your body is saying to you, I need rest. But no, you're telling it that there is this proverbial career corporate ladder. It extends to the heavens. You're just here. You need to continue climbing and climbing and climbing, and your body is saying, I'm giving in, I'm giving up. I know of 2 men, I was told by somebody, I know of 2 men who were high-flying men in the corporate space. They retired at 65 and were dead at 70. Because what happens is between that time, you begin to realize that I was running my body to death. Stress and strain. People who can't take a vacation because it's too hard. It's too much work. Somebody said a vacation is an interruption. I need to keep running. I need to keep running. And let me tell you something. We have also glorified it in this generation. We say that we are the hustlers. Hustlers. Don't even get me started on. Let me tell you something, how hustling became a political slogan that won our hearts over is just, it beats me. Why would anyone want to be called a hustler? Hustling was not a design of the Creator of God. He gave you work. He told you express yourself with the work of your hands. But hustling means you're waking up at the crack of dawn. You're sleeping when everybody else is already asleep. You're dreaming work. You're just hustling and hustling and hustling. That was never God's intention. Stress and strain is one of the things in the fine print. Psalms 127:2 says this, it's in vain that you rise up early and go late to rest, eating the bread of anxious toil. Do you know that toil where you just keep on doing this? It's just anxious toil every day, every day, every day. It says, for he gives to his beloved sleep. But we are hustling, the stress and the strain. So your body is screaming, it's telling you to stop, but your ambition is saying just one more quarter, just one more target, just one more season. If I get through this season, you finally have more than you once prayed for, but you've lost the ability to enjoy it. Sometimes the fine print is broken relationships. Because anything that demands total devotion has to take that devotion from somewhere else. So here it is, you're in a work situation. Your boss is saying to you that I need you here from 6 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock in the evening. Can I tell you something? That time is being carved out of something else. Oftentimes, that other thing is an important thing. That's just how it is. So it's your teenager who stopped asking whether you're coming to their events. Not because they are angry anymore. You know when you move from a point of anger, then indifference. Like, my dad is just never here. I'm used to it. That's my kind of life. That's my lot in life. So he's not even angry. He just knows you will never show up. It's a marriage that functions like a very efficient business partnerships. Bills are paid, children are collected, calendars are coordinated, everybody knows what they are responsible for, but somewhere along the way the friendship disappeared. And perhaps the cruelest part is that many of us started working this hard because we said, I'm doing it for my family, only to discover that our family became the thing we sacrificed for to do it. And you know, this relationships is not just with our spouses and with our children, but also with our friends. Somehow I hear this glorification of unavailability. I hear people saying it's so lonely at the top. Why are you at the top by yourself? Honestly, let me tell you something. I listened to a podcast yesterday by 3 gentlemen that I really liked, really enjoyed, and I was like, men can talk. Like, men are talking. Men are having conversations. But somehow you're in a system where you need to be the CEO and you're just there by your lonesome. And so your boys are calling you and you're not available because now they are hustling. Oh, meomoka, you're at another level. Broken relationships. But also, it's not just friends, familial relationships or spousal relationships or those with our children. It's even with God. Let me tell you, we know you. Back in your day, you were in church early in the morning, but now you are retired. You are a retired Christian. You put yourself somewhere at the periphery of this hall, somewhere at the back. Hello. Don't mind me, people, don't mind me. But you put yourself somewhere at the back. You used to come to church early, but then now we don't see you. Your skills, your expertise, your lived experience is crucial for us. Mavuno Young and Fearless Camp is coming up. We need people who have your life, your lived experience to speak to them. But you're too busy. You're too busy for God. The God who gave you that promotion, the God who gave you that skill, your last scene. That's the reality of this Babylonian system. It wants to sap you dry. It'll take everything that you have, everything that anchors you, everything that gives you meaning, including your relationship with God. And so somebody comes, you pray for them, they get a good job. Their last scene in Karura Forest on a Sunday, walking their chihuahua. Do you know there's something I'm really passionate about, and I've said this on multiple occasions. Corporate buddies, niskie, listen to me, corporate people. Desist from marathons and walks on Sundays. Yes. Iwafikie, please tag a corporate buddy near you or in your socials. Let me tell you something. I know I can be a tad bit dramatic, but let me tell you why I'm passionate about this thing. I'm passionate about it because I travel for work. And when I travel, I go to godless countries. Most recently, Australia. Devoid of God. Do you know, godless countries don't become godless overnight. It's a slow drift and it's a slow fade. Oftentimes, it begins with economic empowerment, which is a good thing, but because it's a Babylonian system, we become entangled by it. And so our worth is derived from it. And so you come to church on Sunday, but before long, you're now in parks and things like that. And so when you travel to these countries, this church is not a thing on Sundays. As a matter of fact, you are an anomaly. So why I'm talking about walks and marathons is you do small things to relegate the presence and the power of God by forsaking the meeting of saints. So you're telling me Sunday is the only day you can run. Corporate bodies, Tanshat, Matahatran. Let me tell you, I've come up with a solution. I've told you this. Don't run on Sundays. Divvy up public holidays amongst yourselves. Meet for brunch. Decide, Matahatran, take May. Tanshat Marathon, take October. Do not deny us that opportunity. We must be awake and alert to the things that are Babylonian, the things that exclude God systematically, including denying us an opportunity to meet on Sunday. So where's the camera? If you care, Stanshat. If you care, Matahatran, come for me. Come for me. You'll see how Gen Zs will back me up. You can't touch me. Guys, I'm talking about something really serious. Things have to go. It talks about nature abhorring a vacuum. Let me tell you something. That space will be taken up by performance reviews, by retreats, by golfing, by all of those things. And no sooner, God has been relegated to the back bench, completely faded from the scene of your life. The Babylonian system is not benign. The marketplace is not neutral. You need to get in with convictions of steel. Be fully persuaded that who you are will stand. I will go home and hug my kids. I will have dinner with them during the weekends. Stand your ground. So what? You won't become COO in 5 years. What does it gain a man to gain the whole world but lose his soul? Sometimes the fine print is compromised character and convictions. And this one rarely happens dramatically. Babylon doesn't normally walk into your office on your first day there and say, today abandon everything you believe. She negotiates. The first time something happens in your office, facilitation, I hear, is what it's called. When you mean bribing. So the first time something happens like that, it bothers you slightly. You even go home and tell your wife, hey, this new office that I'm in, this thing happened. This is how they do things. That's the first time it happens. And maybe you tell her, I don't agree with that. But the second time it happens, you keep quiet. The third time, you tell yourself, I think it's complicated. I don't understand everything. Let me just let them do what they do. Then you learn the language. You learn what can be said in the room and what cannot. You learn which parts of yourself are welcome at the table and which parts are better left outside. You learn that certain convictions may cost you access, promotion, relationships, or opportunities. And slowly, the question stops being, what do I believe? And becomes, what can I afford to say? Or perhaps it happens through the small ethical exceptions that become normal over time. That backdated invoice. Accountants, are you here? No, you're not here. The number that you know is not accurate. The favor that you exchanged for the contract. The thing that would once have kept you awake at night eventually doesn't register anymore. Sex for grades. Students, are you here? No, they're not students. Until one day you realize that the person in the mirror is someone your younger self would not fully recognize. Mavuno Downtown, Babylon didn't necessarily change your convictions. She simply taught you to live as though you didn't have any. So please turn to your neighbor and tell them this. Don't let what you gain cost you who you are. I want to share with you a personal story. So many of you know that I'm what you call a bivocational pastor, which means that I am a Paul of the 21st century. I work in the marketplace, and I am also a full-time minister and pastor. I work in the human rights space. What many of you may not know is that after a work trip to Australia a few months ago, I came back home and I tendered my resignation, because I realized that something had begun to happen. Now, let me tell you this. Pastors, Bible-believing people, Christians, are not immune from the claws of Babylon. So I'm passionate about human rights, and that's the passion that God has put in my heart. And so I joined this women's rights organization. But what I've begun to realize is this. When you work in the NGO space, this is a trajectory. You work for a local NGO, then the aspiration is to move to a regional NGO. Then the aspiration is to move to a global NGO or an INGO. So I worked for one of those global INGOs. And I didn't realize that the cost of me climbing that NGO ladder was that my convictions will be dulled. That the things that I held steadfast, now I was holding whimsically. Let me give you an example. So it was a left-leaning organization. I loved it initially because it was women's rights. I'm passionate about young women and girls and things like that. Issues of FGM and all of that kind of stuff, that is my forte. However, what happens in those spaces is when you sign the dotted line, you're signing for more than you think you are. And so I worked for an organization that was pro-abortion. I worked for an organization that was pro-transgender. I worked for an organization that was pro-sex workers. Now, over time, you begin to realize that your convictions about certain matters get dulled along the way. And so, let me tell you something. I worked there for 5 years. It's only towards the end that people knew that I was a pastor. Why did I feel the need not to divulge that information? Or did it just never come up? Or did I feel that my street cred in that organization would diminish because of my convictions? So somehow, I would come here on Sunday and preach a fiery message. Maybe 1 or 2 people would give their lives to Christ. Then I would put on a hat on Monday and work in this space that was peddling ungodly agendas. NGO people, are you there? Mefikiwa leo. It's possible for you to love Christ, but work in a space that says we are pro-abortion, which means you love Christ, but you're pro-killing of children. And don't tell me that conception doesn't start. That life doesn't start at conception. These are the lies that Babylon feeds us. And so I came back and I had it. With no plan, I just decided to resign. 2 years ago in Uganda, we went on mission, and the mission is coming up. I would encourage any of you who's available to join us, or just actually make time to join us. It's normally an amazing time. And so every September, we go down to Uganda on mission, and I went down in September 2024. And when I went there, I remember praying on one of the days, and God showed me a vision. And the vision that he showed me was I was at the cusp of hell. And I was picking people up, and I was dropping them in. Because I was literally thinking and praying about my work, and I felt completely conflicted. And he showed me that, Pastor Jojo, you are preaching my gospel on Sunday, but on Monday you're peddling a demonic agenda. And so I left. My come out was resignation, but yours may not be. Your come out might be refusing to manipulate the numbers, even though everybody else does it. It might be saying something in a meeting when everyone has chosen to remain silent. It might be turning down an opportunity because you know what it will require of you. It might be putting a boundary back where you allowed work to take over. It might simply be saying, I will stay in this room, but I will not play by these rules. Because coming out of Babylon doesn't always mean leaving your assignment like I did, and I'm really glad that I have. Sometimes it means changing your allegiance within that assignment. There's one final thing in the fine print that Babylon really doesn't want you and I to notice. And it's the fact that Babylon has an expiry date. Remember the context that we looked at earlier. Before John ever tells us about Babylon, about Babylon's wealth or influence or significance, or their relationship with kings, we already know how her story ends. Because Revelation 18 announces this: fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. In fact, before John sees everything Babylon has, God shows him where Babylon is going. And I need you to think about that for a moment, because we spend so much of our lives chasing things that look permanent when we are pursuing them, but become painfully temporary once we have them. That title that you prayed for, one day it will belong to someone else. The office you worked so hard to get, someone else will eventually sit in it. That organization that you're giving blood, sweat, and tears for will replace you. Are these uncomfortable truths? But they're true nonetheless. Wasn't Bob Collymore replaced? Wasn't he an amazing CEO? He was. But unfortunately, he passed away and he was replaced. He really was. As great and as competent as you are, someday someone will replace you. That award that you have, thank God for it. But it will gather dust. The followers will follow somebody else. Those accolades will fade. Positions will change hands. And that's not to say that those things are bad. Enjoy what God has given you. Steward influence well. Celebrate that promotion. Receive that award by all means. Build something significant. Just don't build your identity on something with an expiry date. Because here's the tragedy of Babylon's deal. She can ask you to sacrifice eternal things in exchange for temporary things. So you may sacrifice your character for a contract, your convictions for access, your family for a title, your relationship with God for success. Things that matter forever, traded for things that were always going to expire. And perhaps that's why Jesus asks one of the most sobering questions in Scripture. In the book of Mark 8:36, and I love the NKJV version, it says this: "For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world, if he gains the success, if he gains the corner office, if he gains the significance, if he gains the influence, if he gains the dollar salary, and yet loses his own soul?" Notice Jesus doesn't deny the possibility of gain. You can gain, you can win, you can succeed, you can get that thing. But here's a question: what did it cost you? As I bring this message to a close, Mavuno Downtown, come out of her has to touch Monday. It has to touch Tuesday board meeting. It has to touch Friday as you golf with those prospective clients. It has to leave Sunday and touch your Monday, end your Wednesday, end your Friday. So as we close this morning, let me give you 3 simple things that you can do this week. First is name your deal. I want you to identify one trusted person, maybe somebody in your small group, a family member. Tell that trusted person what you have realized today. Maybe it's I've allowed success to become too important to me, or I've been compromising my convictions, or I've made work my identity. Whatever it is, bring it to the light. Don't leave it as something you felt during a sermon. At the end of the first sermon, somebody came to me and told me that while they are not in Babylon, they feel like their own version of Babylon is that they aspire for Babylon. And that is as much idolatry as if you are in Babylon. Because it's just about the day, the season that Babylon will come to you. So for them, that was them naming their deal. Whatever it is, bring it to light. Don't leave it as something you felt during the sermon. The second thing, break one pattern. Determine today, determine this month, this quarter, in the office, in the marketplace, wherever it is you are, even as a student, even as a business person, do one thing differently in this quarter or this season or this week. Maybe leave the late night message or email until morning. Maybe tell the truth about those numbers. Maybe go back to the donor and say, we over-reported. Maybe it's saying no to something you would normally accept to just get ahead. Put that boundary back. Say, I'm going to have dinner with my kids every day or every weekend. I'm going to drive them, pick them up from school, drop them up from school because I haven't done that. I'm going to come back to God. I'm going to come back to the heart of worship. I'm going to come back and serve because I realize and recognize that I've relegated him to the back seat of my life because of Babylon. Make your come out of her practical. As I said, for me it was resignation and I had to do it. Let me tell you, there was an urgency. There was an urgency that I felt. And something surreal has happened to me after that. The past 2 months, I am exuding joy. I am sleeping well. My husband is attesting to it. Let me tell you what I didn't realize. I didn't realize that I was spiritually gagged and spiritually handcuffed. Let me tell you, you don't want your pastor to be spiritually gagged or handcuffed. It means I can only give you this much. But now I'm free. I'm not peddling an ungodly agenda. I'm not. Let me tell you, Babylon must fall. NGO people, say no to those liberal agendas. Those agendas are not benign. They are pervasive agendas. Look at the West. In the West, a parent can be penalized because they refuse to gender affirm their child. Your child comes to you and says, I feel like I'm a bird. And what you need to do is to affirm them. Hogwash. Let's refuse those pervasive agendas. That is what Babylon is doing to us. Slowly by slowly, it's seeping in. We need to preserve our family unit. So this week, break one pattern. It could be resignation. It could be beginning to look for another job. It could be something. But do something about the message you have had. Make your come out practical. The third and the last thing, release something that has been owning you. And this one may cost you, by the way. Maybe it's give somebody in your team credit. You know that young intern did the entire presentation, but your boss thinks it's you. This week, maybe just own up. Not only to your boss, but also to the young intern who labored for that presentation. Turn down the opportunity you know comes with the wrong fine print. Release the need to be recognized. Give something away. Choose obedience over an advantage that you could have taken. Remind your own heart, this thing does not own me. Why don't you help me preach this message as we bring it to a close? Turn to your neighbor, tell them, don't let what you gain cost you who you are.